Hi, Art. Arthur, can you hear me? Arthur?
Sunil.
Ah, I can hear you. I can hear you. How are you?
How are you?
I am good. I'm good.
Wow, I love that painting.
Oh, thank you.
Like a Rothko.
Yeah, I think you have a pretty good painting behind you too.
Yeah, that is actually the ship that my friend goes out and tags great white sharks, and he has a science vessel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
The webinar, do we also join on the same link, or Nikhil only joins on this link, or Nikhil joins a different link?
So he has a presenter link.
Okay.
Just like you did. Yeah. And I think we sent it to him separately, although he got it like you did directly from Zoom. Yeah. Look, I don't know what, I think it's largely, we're not perfect at doing things, but we generally get quite a bit more than 15 people. But if it's okay with you, we'll just do this, record it, and then we won't count it as one of your two.
Okay. Okay. We'll give it a shot. I think the concern we had was because the team wasn't giving us anything from email confirmation. So we were a little bit in the dark as to, is it happening? Is it shifting? Right? That's
Yeah. Yeah, we're usually much better than that. We had a bunch of folks go on vacation, so and I've been scrambling with a bunch of stuff. So my apologies for not being as efficient as we normally are.
No worries. When the I think Nikhil is trying to connect to audio. Okay.
Is it Nikhil or
Yeah.
Nickel?
Nikhil.
Nikhil.
Yeah. And in terms of the webinar structure, he's the main guy on spotlighted on this thing, or how does it? And we stay out, or we stay
No,
in?
I would stay on if it's okay with you, if you have time.
Mhm.
What I think would be smart, what we normally do is, I'll open it up at the appointed time, do a little housekeeping, and then go and introduce maybe you first, do a little background, then Nicole.
Hey,
Second.
Nikhil.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging with us here into the evening. Yeah.
Oh no, it's actually morning.
Good
It's
morning.
yeah, that's why. Yeah, I mean,
He shifted his travel to Dubai to next week.
Oh, okay. Okay. Great. Where are you now?
New Jersey, Princeton.
Oh, okay. So you're in Easter time. Okay, I got it. All right, good.
Yeah.
So I was just saying, while I sort of update you on this, do you have a deck to share?
Yeah, I do.
So why don't you go ahead and try doing that, just because sometimes it gets hung up.
Okay.
So I'm going to open it up, do a little bit of housekeeping. Sunil, hand it to you, do your background, or Nikhil, whoever wants to go first, and then do a little background each, and then go ahead into the presentation, and I'll be paying attention and asking some questions as we go along, if it makes sense, and then taking questions from the audience. And we're going to record it.
Thank you for attending, Arthur. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Sunil Cherian. I am the co-founder and CEO for Copperwire Systems. With me, my team is here from several years. We've been working on this fantastic platform, and I'll let Nikhil Nayab take it from here. Nikhil's the President and Chief Revenue Officer for the company. He comes with a tremendous background in supply chains, in financials, in raising capital. I'll let Nikhil take it from here.
Yeah, Nikhil, let me just jump in for 1 second. The room, let the room populate a little bit. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping for Zoom, just so the attendees know what we're up to. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for sharing some time with us. We're super excited to have the team with us. And just for the record, we're going to be doing this again in a couple sessions. We encourage you to, if you after participating today, see something that is interesting to you. The objective is we're raising money for the organization, and we also encourage you to share it with others that might be interested after you see what we're up to here today. We can't hear or see you, meaning we know you're there. And if you care to ask a question, please put it in the chat box or the Q&A. This session is going to be recorded, and we'll post it so you can review it at a later time and also share it with others. So I just wanted to jump in and do some housekeeping there. Again, thank you all for joining with us today. And please feel free to not only share this with others, but you'll be put in direct contact with the team here if there's any interest in being an investor and participating. So Nikhil, go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Art. And Sunil, thank you for the intro. Really excited what we have going on here at Copperwire. So hopefully my screen is being shared correctly. Can everybody see my?
Looks good.
Excellent. Thank you. It's always good when presentations start with Zoom behaving itself. All right. So I think if you sort of look across the landscape of where we are as a planet, you really need to look no further than your window. 2023 was a disastrous year, and we've all seen the effects of climate change. As a result of that, there's an enormous momentum behind making enterprises more responsible for their climate initiatives. And the rules that they need to adhere to are shifting in such a way that the number of enterprises that now need to report on their sustainability and ESG performance is exploding. So this number of 150,000 pretty much grows on a monthly basis as the rules continue to pivot out of favor of not reporting into the favor of reporting. For enterprises to report effectively, it's very important that their entire supply chain kind of join them in that effort. Which means over 5 million suppliers who work with large corporates now need to be able to report on how they are supporting ESG and sustainability across the entire value chain. 2,400 regulations and mandates are going live globally. Not adhering to the requirements that these regulations and mandates make can create a risk of compliance and heavy fines. The stakeholder pressure, which is sort of across the board, it's society, it's owners, it's customers. Gen Z has proven to us that if companies do not produce sufficient sustainability metrics, then the products are out of favor for that population. So you've got customers such as that, the government, lenders, suppliers, the community. All of these are sort of very important and are driving demand to improve ESG performance, report on ESG ratings, and overall impact the reputation of large enterprises. So that is why this opportunity is near, current, and available today. If we sort of start to double click into what are the challenges that large enterprises face, then sort of the iceberg does a very good sort of is a very good depiction. There is tremendous amount of data, but it's very difficult to see all of that data because the data resides in the value chain. 80 to 90% of the data that companies have to disclose is trapped within their supply chains. As a result of that, it kind of, the next sort of tier up is lack of data verifiability. To ensure that a regulatory report actually has the correct information that can now be signed off by a CFO, it's very important that the data be verifiable, that the data can be traced, and the data can be trusted. Lack of all of this creates greenwashing problems, and effectively doesn't give comfort to an enterprise that whatever they're reporting is correct and appropriate. I kind of think about this as a garbage in, garbage out situation. There is a tremendous amount of data that needs to be brought together, corralled together, and then it needs to kind of pop out in a variety of reports. Now, for all of that to happen, you have to sort of digitize and automate the data that's coming into the system. So there is a need sort of to ensure that whatever system is put in place by these large enterprises is able to pull in data from a variety of data sources, which today are Excel spreadsheets and many other manual sort of documents, digitize all of that, bring it into a centralized repository from which enterprises can then confidently create the variety of ESG reports that they need. So if you think about how do you go from this garbage in to ensuring that the garbage in problem is resolved and that you're able to create optimal reports, it's very important. This I kind of think about this as operationalizing. It's the process of taking what you don't have that's sort of very nebulous, and then putting it together in a manner that's coherent and cohesive. So the product and platform that we have helps you to not only get visibility, but ensure that there is verifiability of the data, that we are able to automate and digitize, and then thereby operationalize sustainability. And we'd be remiss if we don't say that, ultimately, an enterprise needs to make very complex decisions based on the data that it has access to. How do you meet certain ESG targets that you've set up as an enterprise? You need to kind of perhaps get rid of a few suppliers, change your value chain, change the supplier mix. All of these are very complex decisions that our platform actually will enable an enterprise to more confidently make. So the need, as we see it, in a very simplified way, is large enterprises need a robust and modern platform. That's a given. It needs to be sort of future-proof, so use very current technology, whether it's generative AI, blockchain, IoT, so on and so forth. But then what it needs to actually deliver from a use perspective, which is where I like to focus, what the platform needs to be is a unified ERP-style enterprise sustainability management platform, because that's how large enterprises can collect all of that data, scrub it, process it, and then be able to demonstrate their adherence to all of the regulatory mandates across the different geographies that may actually be hitting them. It's important to ensure that because there is a value chain involved, this ERP-style sustainability platform allows you as an enterprise to do all the work in a collaborative manner. And the words to sort of that really appeal to me are value chain, ecosystem, and collaboration. And that's one of the founding sort of building blocks of our platform. So it's called Impact Chain. It's collaborative enterprise sustainability management. To do this, you have to have a underpinning that creates trust across all the participants of your ecosystem. So we use distributed trust technology as the foundational building block. on top of which we are able to sort of build our unified ERP solution. We are able to ensure that the underlying data model is trust-centric, and multiple different elements such as verifiability, veracity, and immutability of the data are supported, because that's when you can do deep multi-tier value chain traceability across all participants of your ecosystem and the data that they're providing to you as a large enterprise.
Hey, would you mind if I jumped in here for a second?
Sure.
Just to frame out, and Sunil and I had an interesting conversation just before we started here. Initially, this was the intent of corporations was to do good. Now there's teeth in the process because there's regulations that they have to comply to, not just a desire to do good. Is that fair enough to say?
Absolutely.
And then, so the complexity is, well, and if you don't comply, right, the consequences, can we talk a little bit about the consequences of not complying?
So, obviously there is tremendous reputational risk. Products fall out of favor, and because that's one of the things we've observed in the research we've had access to, that Gen Z really desires these products to come from reputable and ESG compliant companies. But more importantly, there is a potential for fines to be levied. There is, in the United States, there is the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. Very likely that cargo that gets dropped off at a port in the US is picked up by customs, and you have to demonstrate that there were no sweatshops used, from these tribes in the China region. How do you actually do that? Because if you're not able to demonstrate that cargo is held and sent back, which could be millions of dollars of operational, like real sort of capex losses, right? So fines, real serious issues with supply chains not being able to function, and then product, appeal to your consumers. These are all three varied vectors, but all very important.
And then also it's the consequence if you're a supplier to one of these big corporations and you're not willing to not just comply, but provide data that perfects that you've complied, then you're kind of out, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a very important point in the B2B world too, whether you're a textile manufacturer, you're selling garments or textile products, selling to your customers in the EU or US, they expect you to follow certain standards. And if you don't follow that and don't maintain your ratings, you would lose that contract. So that's a real direct material impact for them. So that's a critical consideration.
Even directly for the organization, the opportunity or the potential loss of license to operate is a very, very major risk for any corporation.
Yeah.
I think, if you look at very large, as Rakesh was saying, right, very large corporations today cannot even as a desk if the supplier of that desk has not provided all of their ESG information. They're banned from doing it. So this is a very real thing that's being enforced, by procurement departments in companies. That's changing how these 5 million plus suppliers now are thinking about the data that they need to kind of provide.
And it's not just the data, you have to maintain a performance rating too. So it's like, okay, you gave me the data, but if it's, you got to maintain a certain level of ESG performance, and there are rating agencies that provide those ratings, and you got to maintain that, and you got to do enough to ensure that you maintain those ratings.
So of being one of the uninformed about this, hearing just what I heard, I think I'm going to pack up my tools and go live in a mountain somewhere, because the daunting task to comply to all this seems somewhat overwhelming. So sarcasm intended. So I'm just trying to frame that out for the group so we have, why this is so important. The incumbent methods of addressing this problem are leaving people. I guess what I'm asking is, are the incumbent methods just not enough, and that's why there's been success in the deal flow and your pipeline and that sort of thing?
Yeah, let me answer. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Rakesh. Why don't you start and then I'll come in.
No, I think the data problem is very complex, right? Today, companies are just struggling to even assess their current state, whether it is for reporting, whether it is for regulatory reporting, or whether it is to respond to your customers asking for the data. It doesn't matter. Everybody's struggling to get this data, and they have to get the data. You forget about trying to decarbonize, reduce emissions and all that. They don't even know how much is their emissions today. And that is not a blind spot you can live with. You have to clarify, and you have to go get the data. And 80 to 90% of the data is in the supply chain. There's no choice. You have to go get the data. And that is a problem that is not easily solvable. And most product vendors who have gotten into this business do not solve that well enough. That is where the companies that have already invested in some solutions are still coming to us saying that, hey, this particular problem is something that you can help us with. So that is where it is. And, for the next foreseeable few months or maybe a year and a half, it's companies just trying to figure out where they are and be able to report all the current state with verifiable data with assurance and so on. So it's actually data that's not made up, right? It is data that has verifiable evidence, because that's exactly why the whole greenwashing skepticism and allegations have come about, because companies are just reporting whatever they want and there is no proof behind what they're reporting. So those are the two big problems. By virtue of our journey, we have this unfair advantage of having really built a platform that addresses these very complex problems. And we are showing a path for them to get to that current state.
So the incumbent
not just
solutions have
us.
huge problems, right? And big gaps. Got it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's not just us. Consultants like McKinsey have selected us because of our very unique ability to do what we are doing in this particular space as one of the more promising startups.
Yeah. Excellent. So let's kind of keep going here, and thank you for the questions. I'm happy to keep this interactive as well. So if the folks who are attending, if they have questions, please feel free to put those in the chat.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So Rakesh kind of was about to start on some of this stuff, and at the end of the day, the platform is rooted in our experience and expertise in supply chain management, which is what you actually need to make sure you can build a vertical solution that provides the ESG transparency and traceability. So this slide needs to be done sort of bottom up. We're able to collect data from a variety of endpoints and sources. We can be deployed across any cloud infrastructure that an enterprise has. We can plug into any ERP system to extract data that the enterprise has. We then create what we call the distributed trust layer, because this is an ecosystem that the enterprise is a part of, and their suppliers are able to then join the same sort of platform. And we build application services once we've got trusted data that comes from that is fully traceable and verifiable. And the application services cover a variety of sustainability and ESG topics, have sort of veracity scoring for the information that the application is generating. And we've got analytics and so on and so forth. We obviously have deployed generative AI wherever appropriate. I think that's important to state. I strongly believe Gen AI is an amazing sort of technology, but needs to be deployed where it can actually make a difference, because it has a very high cost. These models are extremely expensive to run. And we've been very judicious in deploying Gen AI where it makes sense. And clients, it has resonated very, very well with clients. One of them is in the process of actually signing up, and we'll come to our client set in a little bit. All of this sort of is baked into ImpactX as the platform, and we're able to offer a variety of integration services to make sure that the suite can be deployed within the confines of an organization, but extended to its entire ecosystem of suppliers. And we are better for a variety of reasons, some of which we talked about earlier. We have an unfair advantage, and that creates the moat. We spent years as a company building a platform for for supply chain visibility and supply chain management, because we've actually looked at the problems that multi-tier supply chains create. And by that, what I mean is, if you're Walmart and you're buying products for sale, you're dealing typically with only a tier 1 suppliers. A tier 1 supplier of Walmart has a tier 2 supplier that they depend on, and the tier 2 has another third tier, and so on and so forth. And it becomes a multi-tier sort of supply chain that all goes into the product that is ultimately sold in the store. To do ESG and sustainability right, you have to be able to trace data across this entire multi-tier supply chain. And because of our background, we've already been built to do this. We are using our platform to sort of provide the capability and the technology and the reporting that ESG needs. We use blockchain where necessary to operationalize trust between these different participants and the ecosystem. And we improve data traceability and verifiability through our use of the technology. And we create a true ERP for sustainability, like I mentioned earlier. Our unfair advantage gives us a head start. And that is why, as Dr. Ram was mentioning, consulting firms like McKinsey have actually put us in their pavilion, and Ram is actually in Dubai right now at COP28. I'm headed there tomorrow. And McKinsey put us in their pavilion precisely because they can see where we've come from. It's very difficult for companies that are doing ESG today to go back and do what we've done over the past many, many years. And that is why we are where we are in McKinsey's pavilion, and we are super excited for that. And like I mentioned earlier, we use generative AI where appropriate. We've got a use case for that. If anyone's interested, happy to share our perspective on how Gen AI has been appropriately deployed within Impact Chain. So our market potential, is sort of 150,000 plus companies. The numbers I like to focus on is the worldwide spend on the ESG business services is 158 billion in 2025, but the CAGR is very interesting. It's growing at a 32% CAGR. Europe, of course, is a little bit further ahead, and there's a TAM of more than $9 billion, but that was a 2021 number. I'm sure the 2023 and 4 numbers are much, much bigger. What's interesting about our business is it's a global business. If you are an Amazon, you have offices in North America, in Europe, in Asia, and you are going to be hit with a variety of mandates that are different by the region in which you're doing business. So once you sit on Amazon, you actually will be deploying across a variety of geos, which makes us very sticky as a product, which gets us firmly entrenched in these large companies, makes us very difficult to get rid of once we're in there. And the client list, which we'll talk about again, will tell you that there is tremendous interest in what Copperwire is building. And we've already closed deals with very large corporations that sort of give us that advantage. A little bit on our team. I won't belabor on this too much. I'm sure this recording will have, so people can hit pause and sort of read the backgrounds if they're interested. But we've I think, assembled a precise sort of set of people that are going to help us make a difference in our journey towards being the ERP of choice for enterprise sustainability management. And where we are today is we are in an enterprise land grab. One of the things that you'll see in terms of usage of funds is to ensure that we are able to proceed aggressively on this enterprise land grab, which is where we are right now. We need to gain incumbency. The way we are doing it is we have a charter customer program. We found tremendous interest in our in this charter customer program because companies in it get an opportunity to define our product. We, being an early stage nimble startup, is able to sort of truly move with the demands of our customers. Once we get in a larger enterprise, that's when we can upsell a variety of different product modules and grow sideways. By that, what I mean is we may sell to a company based out of Asia that has offices in Europe, but we're deployed in factories in Asia first. And then we are deployed in perhaps a data center in Europe. I don't really know where, but that's how we sort of grow laterally within an account. And we've got an enormous opportunity to kind of continue to do that, especially because the clients we are going after are very, very large enterprises. From there on, we will start to specialize. We've seen a lot of interest in data center from data center operators. They consume enormous amounts of energy. It's very important that data centers operate in efficient ways. And there's a specific interest coming from that. We've got traction with universities. We've got a university in Texas that is close to closing a contract with us. Once we do that, it opens up the entire university segment with 1,000+ universities that we could go after, because it's build once and then sell multiple times. It's a software as a service product. And similarly, we've seen retail as an industry where we've closed our client. We've seen healthcare where we are in the process. Well, we've closed another client in healthcare. So we are going to start to create these vertical solutions that are more industry specific, driven a little bit by what we are observing in terms of what's happening with the regulatory landscape, but then more importantly by client needs. And we've got an enormous interest from ISVs, from partners. There isn't a consulting company out there that isn't excited when they hear Impact Chain, because of a few things. One, it's a thought-leading product, which they can sell to the CISO. But more importantly, they can see that the amount of data now massaged and brought into this system, which is where all the SI opportunity lies. So the garbage in problem will be fixed by the large enterprises. The SIs want to be right there to offer that as a service. And we love that partnership because we're not in the business of putting bodies in seats. We are in the business of building really leading product. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. So McKinsey has enormous interest in Copperwire. Deloitte has expressed tremendous interest in Copperwire, and KPMG as well. So we are going after the large ones, and we're going after some of the other pure play systems integrators as well. And that's where we sort of accelerate and sort of really grow. So that's our plan. And I think
is there the typical challenge with coming in with a new system in a big corporate is the daunting task of undoing the incumbent system? Is the sales cycle or that process one that is a big challenge to you, or is it more like the days when cybersecurity, people were just throwing money at it because they had to?
So, I think, we are at a point where people have to start to throw money at it. This isn't an option anymore. Today, the Chief Information Security Officer is one of those super important positions without, that's just gathered a lot of momentum. But that's today. This is exactly where the Chief Sustainability Officer will be in a couple of years from now. So we are, I think, sitting at that launch point. We have the right traction. We're getting into the right organization because historically, this, as we mentioned earlier, ESG was getting lip service from large companies, but that is not the case today. COP28 that's in Dubai is going to unleash a variety of action. And I think the timing is very right for actually this webinar. We're super excited because we're going to be there, at COP28, and you can expect sustainability to be at the forefront of the corporate boardroom in 2024.
So when you go into an enterprise and they have an ERP system that somewhat solves the problem, but there's huge gaps and they recognize it, is it a daunting task to get them to adopt what you're doing alongside or in place of that?
So, you have to make sure that you're able to pull some information out of an existing ERP system. For example, if a company is saying, okay, we want to be carbon neutral, and you happen to be a consulting firm that has at any given point in time 400,000 people on a plane, knowing your travel invoices is super important, because only when you know what jets are they flying can you really figure out, what's the carbon emission, from that particular flight. So all of that information is sitting in Concur, and we got to pull that information out. We've got, GRI offers in the formulae to calculate what sort of carbon emissions do trucks generate, depending upon the length of the truck and the axles, and so on and so forth, right? So all of this information needs to be extracted, needs to be combined with what we know about how to calculate, in this case, carbon emissions, and then generate the report for the chief sustainability officer and the chief financial officer. So there is a bit of integration, which is where the opportunity for the SIs comes in.
Yeah, I would say that there's this, the complexity creates a barrier for others, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, if you dial back to, so my background is capital markets. I've been in the banks for a very, very long period of time. If you look at, the Volcker rule, it unleashed regulatory reporting. Up until then, we on the desk, we would report, but we just didn't really care much, right? When the regulators came down and said, okay, now this is what you have to do, and by the way, your report has to be signed off by the CFO. Suddenly, regulatory reporting, became the most important department in the bank and was sucking up oxygen from every other department, right? So the same thing is going to happen when it comes to sustainability reporting, because the CFO is going to be signing off on sustainability reports for a corporation, and once that becomes a requirement, the garbage in problem will be fixed by putting people to ensure that the systems, the ERP system, is connected to impact chain, that the data flows seamlessly, and we can report on it.
It totally makes sense and sounds like an awesome opportunity from someone that doesn't really understand all this stuff, but really, really interesting. All right, continue.
So I want to kind of make sure we focus a little bit on our market traction. We've experienced some amazing stuff over the past, I want to say, 8 weeks. It's been a fantastic 2 months. In my career, I've never seen a pipeline that's as deep as the one we've developed for impact chain with very, very limited marketing. We haven't, given that we're a startup, very careful with how we spend money. We work hard on our campaigns. We don't spend too much on it, but even with that, we've got over a couple of hundred companies that are super interested. We spoke to 220 chief sustainability officers as well as a part of our campaign. And I would say more than 50% of those were totally impressed and want to continue working with us. So we spoke about McKinsey earlier. We're excited and proud that we are in their GBB 100 accelerated program as a future climate tech unicorn decacorn. That's what that program focuses on. As a startup, it is next to impossible to be invited to an RFQ by a very, very large telecom provider. And the only reason they did it is because they saw how far ahead of the market this product is. So we were invited by a Finnish global telco to be their global enterprise sustainability management platform. We've been shortlisted as a top a contender for a variety of different industries. We've landed India's leading fashion retail company, ABFRL. It's an $80+ billion conglomerate as a pilot customer. Very recently, we also got a verbal offer from a very large Australian healthcare company that's based out of Texas in the US. And we've been recognized by Gartner. We regularly speak at a variety of panels, Frost & Sullivan, Air and Waste Management Association, And we're working on partnerships with one of the companies that I talked about, one of the big four, and many large sustainability consulting firms across the globe. So super excited at our market traction, a very, very deep pipeline as well. And this is sort of a partial list of our pipeline. What we have in production is a leading organic mattress brand called Avocado. The next logo in production, high quality organics, doesn't do justice to the fact that they are Costco's supplier. So Costco is the one that told HQO, you got to go get this supply chain traceability, otherwise you can't put your product on our shelves. And HQO is what is running on the Copperwire platform. We are in a proof of concept / trial with the University of Texas at Dallas. This is where we deployed our generative AI module to kind of analyze coursework and ensure that they're getting appropriate credits for sustainability, within their coursework. Sonic Healthcare is the Australian healthcare company that has given us the verbal approval. They're about to enter holiday mode, and I hope we can get a contract out of them before they enter holiday mode. If not, this is certainly something that will be done very early next year. We've already signed, Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. We are in proposals with Diageo, with Nokia, with Godrej, with Tata Power, Tata Motors as well. Tata Motors, as you know, owns Jaguar, and they've given us a verbal okay for a proof of concept. What's interesting is this pipeline is changing every day, with more moving right and more coming in from the left. And it's very difficult. Like, you've already found me telling something earlier, but that's not what the slide reflects, because, well, it changed yesterday. I can't do much about the fact that somebody said we will do a pilot with you, and we didn't get a chance to move a logo across to the right. And we're working with Gap and Swiggy in support of Swiggy's IPO. They now need to report sustainability, and a variety of other companies. I think one logo that we'd like to add here is Jones Lang LaSalle. They are very interested in what we're doing and want to enter a trial with us as well, which is actually just happens to be on the extreme left, but it needs to kind of go all the way to the right because it was a fantastic conversation. It's a very dynamic pipeline that's growing on the left, and more logos are moving to the right at a very fast clip, which sort of, tells us that we are right at that inflection point where, we've spent the time building our platform. We've done the hard work of figuring out how to trace data across multi-tier supply chains. We've submitted an umbrella patent application. That's sort of all done. We are now helping enterprises sort of figure out how to meet the various different mandates that they are up against. We will then progressively help them manage their risk and create and give them the ability to create more, to deliver more complex decisions, collaborating with their entire ecosystem and partners. That's how these enterprises will sort of optimize their impact. And this is a network play. So we can then be the foundational technology to build the network, drive collaboration across all the participants of that network, and create meaningful impact for our planet. So I think we are at that inflection point in our journey, evidenced by all the stuff you saw, all the mistakes you saw on the previous slide with the logos not moving sufficiently to the right. And we are looking at. We are conservative in how we are reporting some of our expected revenue, and we're conservative in how we are valuing ourselves, which is valuable for the group that we have on the phone today from an investment perspective. We're really tight in how we operate, in whether it's marketing spend, whether it is compensation spend, so on and so forth. We're on a very, very tight ship. And I think this slide is probably best perused at leisure. So we'll let you pause the recording and sort of focus on how we expect to grow our revenue, how our expenses will change, and when we'll hit sort of positive EBITDA. So what we're looking to raise at this point, again, bear in mind, this is a company that's been around through the 21-22 sort of VC largesse. It's been very careful It has not gone out and raised money unnecessarily and wasted a lot of it as well, in pursuing strange ideas that never really return value. And I think today is very responsibly raising $5 million as the seed extension for 10% of the company. And effectively, we have a safe note out there as well. If someone's interested, Art, we are,
So now there's like 250 left in or 500, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
250 left in the 500. And the safe note, frankly, the reason for the safe note was because of the tremendous client traction we saw. We know it takes time to raise a seed extension round, and we want to make sure that the projects that happen to be in other parts of the world, because Aditya Birla is in Asia, the Sonic Healthcare is in Australia, so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that we deliver this super well. And that's what's created the need for the safe note. We do want to put our best foot forward in these large corporations. But if folks do write us that safe note check, it creates a very, very high ROI, because this round is for Q1 of next year. I mean, we're about to start to raise that. But what's important in this slide to me is what's the use of funds. So as I mentioned very early on, we are in a land grab situation, which is why sales and business development is 45% of where we want to spend the money. We want to recruit the right talent that can go ahead and open some of these accounts. And then you'll see that research and product development is just 20%. That's because we've been building this product for a while. This isn't something that's been cooked up in the past quarter, which now needs 80%. A typical circle for an early stage startup, has somewhere in the region of 60 to 70% of engineering and product development. In our case, it's very different. It tells you that we've hit product market fit, and we are super confident, and we want to push the pedal on sales and business development. We recognize that we have to do a bit of marketing, but more importantly, build out a very, very small professional services organization, which is where you see the 15% for PS. Because our product is unique, we want to make sure it gets integrated right with the ERP for the, at the large enterprise. So that's where a very small, I call it a SWAT team of professionals, whether it's pre-sales or deployment, so that every pilot that we do is an absolute smashing success, because that's how we'd be able to grow laterally within a client. So that's the use of funds. I don't know if anyone has any sort of comments, concerns, or questions.
Well, the land grab thing, as you suggest, you can see the 45%. What's the competition landscape look like?
So this is an active space. There are large companies that have tacked on ESG products onto an existing product set. But then you get the ability to only look at the top half of the iceberg. The problem isn't in top half of the iceberg. That's visible to everybody. It's what's underneath. And the competition does not have the lineage that Impact Chain does. So it is unable to trace the data through the multi-tier supply chain in a verifiable and trusted manner. So, which is why Aditya Birla chose us as against somebody else, which is probably much better funded and looks prettier from an interface perspective, right? Which is why Tata Motors is saying, okay, you guys actually have what we truly need. Everybody else tells us a little bit, and we kind of get that. They're looking at the top part of the iceberg, and you're the ones that are looking at what's underneath, the water level, basically.
Just adding to that, there are many companies that do a great job of reporting. They've been around doing SOX compliance reporting and other stuff. But what is missing there is the veracity, authenticity of the data. You feed in garbage, you get garbage out. In many of these situations, because you don't know where the data is coming from, it is usually hidden 2, 3, 4, 5 levels beyond you in supply chain. You don't get the data. You don't even know your suppliers in many cases, right? So these are operational problems that are creating this problem of, I am reporting, but I don't know what I'm reporting.
Yeah, and if I'm the one signing off, right, and I'll be responsible for the consequences, that's an unpleasant outcome if I can't validate the data, right?
Bingo.
Is the person signing off the same one that's deciding to engage you?
So where our more engagement has been coming from is chief sustainability officers are new roles that have been created in many organizations. Used to be these would get managed by procurement officers, could be supply chain officers. The CFOs now have to sign off. And they created these roles to consolidate and bring the data together so they can actually manage to their goals. They all publicly announced goals for 2030, 2050, etc. Now, the challenge is without measuring, without knowing where you stand, how are you going to hit it?
Yeah. Yeah. If I were the person that was going to suffer the consequences, lose my job, whatever it is, be responsible for paying the fine, losing a supply chain that I wanted, then I would throw a bunch of money at it so I wouldn't lose my job, right? It seems just logical.
Right, and some of the, like we've seen in Europe, there are many ESG funds have lost their ESG designation. They used to get discounted money at cheaper rates, but they lost the designation because they were, and you will see a Reuters article from last October 7th that says banks behind greenwashing, and so they're getting hit on their reputation as well. The penalties are also adding up.
Yeah, to pull line of credits and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super interesting. Wow. So what's the time frame for this raise? When would you like? I mean, everybody wants to wrap it up right away, but first quarter?
Yeah, we're looking at a Q1 closure.
And what Nikhil mentioned is the land grab situation. So I'll give you an example. California just passed the climate mandate last month on October 7th. More than 10,000 companies of $500 million of revenue or higher have to report starting 26, which means by 25, they need to have the data collection systems in place because they have to report based on 25 data. The billion-dollar companies will report every year, $500 million every other year, which means this year they have to go figure things out. So we want to have the money in there, the salespeople in there, because there's a lot, and this is just California. New York has a climate mandate. New York City has a mandate. Illinois is working on one for spring of next year. Europe used to have a mandate for companies of 5,000 employees or larger. Now they drop it down to 250 employees or larger, 40 million euros or higher. India has a mandate. The first deadline is March 31st of 2024. So people are getting serious about it in the next couple of years. There's a massive tsunami coming in this space. So we need to have the money in place so we can scale quickly.
How if you had to predict, you know, oftentimes these sort of things are deployed through the big four and the consulting firms. If you had to predict, would 50% of your business development come from that type of relationship and the balance through direct sales?
So the big guys will utilize our platform for better data. The sustainability consulting companies, there are specialized firms like AECOM, and there are many who have been specialized in the consulting space. They would be another source of partnership for us. There will be people who can do data consulting, the people who have to actually collect the reports, collect the data. This problem of getting a suppliers to comply and provide is actually a pretty hard problem for enterprises. So they need technology as well as labor to support that. And then, so different types of consulting partners, like IT consulting partners, who can provide us with integrations into SAP and Oracle on the existing system. So it's a large shift, and the shift will require us to have an ecosystem to work with.
Yeah. It sounds like the complexity of the problem and the impending regulatory and compliance issues are, put it into a bag and mix it up. It just sounds like opportunity to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been super helpful. Thanks everybody for jumping on whatever hour you are, wherever you are. It's been really nice. And this is super exciting. As I said, we're going to do this a couple more times in the, and we'll schedule them out and share the recording with the people, make sure everybody who RSVP is in touch with you. I super appreciate it. This has been enlightening for me. I've seen a similar massive amount of growth in startup companies that were in the cybersecurity business when everybody was, suffering from that, not from a necessarily regulatory perspective, but from hacking and all that. So I see the same sort of pattern here, I think.
And I'm sure Nikhil has seen this too. I've experienced it myself. There was a startup I was at in 98, 99 time frame. The .com boom happened and we had the right product, right time. Market was exploding. The company went from like 3 million to $600 million in about a year and a half, and it was sold for 7.8 billion after a huge IPO. Right? So the timing is always the biggest part of this thing, and we got the right product for the right time.
Sounds like it. Yeah. Super appreciate it. So thanks all for being here. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And as I always say, thank you for spending with us the only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. So thanks, guys, very much. Till next
Thank you.
time. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.